could have technically, if I didn't do the Chapo Truanon podcast, I could have done all of my interviews that day. I could have gotten those out of the way, right? But it is what it is. I'm not upset about it. You know, I love those boys. I'm always gonna roll with them. So I did the pod, live audience. It was great. One of you guys actually gave me fat stack of Sixers on the Zin. So shouts out to that Hasanabi head at the Chapo podcast. So that was one thing. And then the last day, they're like, no, you got the same space from 2:30 all the way to the end. And I'm like, are you guys sure? It's a big day. I understand if there's limitations, like I'll just, you know, do my thing and I'll go back to my hotel room. And they're like, no, you have the space. You have the space. You have the balcony. It's uninterrupted the entire day. Unlike the day before when the Warren staffer came in and was like, you need to get the out. You know, it was like chirping at me. They were like, no, this time you have it fully, right? I was like, okay, sure. That's great. We start off roaming. Okay, we start off roaming with March. We go to the uncommitted campaign, the uncommitted delegates. Remember, these are Democratic Party operatives that are from all around the country. They represent hundreds of thousands of Democratic Party voters that participated in the primary that said, we are uncommitted because of the actions that the Democratic Party is engaging in terms of Israel, okay? In terms of like what they're doing with their unconditional support to Israel, right? Did you actually get kicked out or is it thumbnail bait? No, I mean, I didn't get fully kicked out. So here's the thing, okay? There are different levels of credentials inside of the Democratic Party. That area that we were at is the lower level suites, right? That is that area that I was at when I was doing this interview with the New York Times was at the lower level suites. This is the same exact level that like CNN is on. It's the same exact level that like MSNBC is on. When you see like Jake Tapper and whatever, like sitting in front of that podium, in front of that stage, like they are literally, they're on the same level. They gave me the balcony on the same exact level, which is insane access, okay? And at that point I was thinking like, honestly, like, I mean, those are like, yeah, those are $500,000. Like people pay $500,000 to get those suites. And the fact that I had the access to that level to like show you this background at all, I'm happy. Like I was going to take anything they were giving me, right? Anything and everything that they were giving me, I was taking. Yeah. Chris Cuomo said those suites cost millions of dollars. Someone at the DNC probably said, why the fuck are we giving this guy this great suite who's on us the entire time? Yeah, I know. So they didn't obviously like say, fuck off, you're done. We're revoking your access completely. You need to leave the premises. They didn't do that because that would have been a much larger, I think, that would have been a little silly for them to do. But they basically made it so that like they made it as impossible to stream for me as possible by coming in and saying randomly out of nowhere, coming in and informing me that I had to leave immediately. Like they were like, you have to clear out immediately. That's what they said. And I was like, what the you saw it. I think it's on my last like YouTube, getting kicked out of the DNC YouTube. Like you probably, that morning I interviewed the uncommitted delegates. Okay. These are Democratic Party operatives themselves, people that have fought against Republicans in their own states, people that have positions within the Democratic Party. These aren't like anarchists. These aren't like the protesters outside. These are people who work within the confines of the Democratic Party. These are Democratic Party delegates. That's why there wasn't so many people outside in the protest, because they're not letting everybody in. They're obviously not letting anyone in, as a matter of fact, okay? They had a Palestinian American. They had multiple Palestinian Americans that had speeches that were pre-vetted and pre-scripted as always, that would endorse Kamala Harris at the end of that speech, as a matter of fact. You know, those are the conditions, right? And they had put forward these speakers, and the Democratic Party was not playing ball with them at all, which was kind of fucked up. Not even kind of fucked up. This is really fucked up because this is a very reasonable demand. It's a reasonable demand. It's a moral demand. It's a just demand. It's electorally positive for the Democrats to like show that they're a big tent that also features, you know, Palestinian voices as well. These are American voters, right? These are American Palestinian voters and their friends. These are Arab voters and Muslim voters in key states. So obviously, I find it ridiculous that they would not, you know, they just wouldn't do anything about that, right? Like they wouldn't let that happen. The UAW was pressuring, donors were pressuring the Democratic Party. A lot of pressure was happening for on the last day to have a Palestinian American speak. They had Border Patrol guys on. They had, you know, like anti-choice Republicans on. They had other Republicans on. They had a bunch of Republicans on. Like, it's crazy. They had an Israeli American family speak, whose son was being held hostage by Hamas as well, which is, of course, understandable. Like, those are families that are suffering. Their voices also must be heard. That makes sense. But to do that and to then turn around and not have any Palestinian Americans, it obviously shows that there's a double standard. And now you have like UAW and other unions also applying pressure as well. And I think they should apply more pressure, as a matter of fact, regardless of the fact that like Joe Biden was very pro labor union and, you know, walked the picket line. Like, it's great that he did that, but I think that there's no other way. There's no other way to get the Democratic Party to meet these demands. Pressure from all vectors need to happen in order to get the Democratic to move on this issue, to get the Kamala Harris campaign to move on this issue. So I said last night, the attitude from the Dems cannot be, or 2 nights ago, cannot be that these people are simply spoiling the fun. Their demands are moral, reasonable, and just. Forcing Israel to commit to a ceasefire through measures beyond tough talk will also be electorally beneficial to the Democratic Party. So it's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win, okay? It's a win-win-win. Everybody with eyes can understand it. Everybody with a fucking brain can see what's going on. Unless you're completely in a bubble. You look at the situation and you're like, why the fuck wouldn't these guys speak? What are you talking about? Do you think it was a space management issue, or was there a problem with you and your ideas? Because this sounds like a big and chaotic event. No, it was straight up about what I said and what I was doing there, okay? UAW posted this as well, which gave many others courage to also come out and speak. If we want the war in Gaza to end, we can't put our heads in the sand or ignore the voice of the Palestinian Americans in the Democratic Party. If we want peace, if we want a real democracy, if we want to win this election, the Democratic Party must allow a Palestinian American speaker to be heard from the DNC station tonight. This is like not, this is literally the lowest hanging fruit, okay? Like, this is a gimme for the Democratic Party to even present themselves as though they are pro-Palestinian, as though they recognize the humanity of Palestinian Americans. Like, that's it. That's it. That's all they are doing. That's all they're fucking doing at this point. That's all they're asking for. Families of the Israeli hostages joined the demand that Palestinians should not be barred from the DNC stage. Both groups demanding ceasefire and a deal to return the captives. Mehdi Hassan also then reported on other reporters being briefed that the DNC accepted the Dem state rep Ruva for Georgia, who is a Palestinian American Georgia state representative, who had a speech that was ready to go. That they lied. The DNC lied and said basically, oh, it was actually the uncommitted movement that turned her down, which I think is ridiculous because obviously, what do you mean it's the uncommitted movement? They are the ones who put her forward. It's a lie being told, I assume, by DNC spinners now on the defensive. Uncommitted are the ones who pitched her, and there's still time for the DNC to put Ruva for Georgia on stage tonight for 2 minutes. If they have time and space for a former Republican congressman and for Israeli members of a hostage, they have time and space for an elected Palestinian Democratic lawmaker. Anything else is straight up racism and erasure. The DNC is strenuously denying that they put out any such false claims. So whichever Dem is saying this bullshit report is about uncommitted isn't even speaking on behalf of the party, it seems. But the bigger question is, why didn't the DNC accept Ruva for Georgia as a speaker tonight? To which I, of course, quote tweeted, why does the DNC have one speed? This is identical to how Israel does Hasbara Lamal. And I think literally right after I posted this tweet, like maybe 30 minutes after, is when I got booted. Rashida Tlaib also said, I know for a fact that the DNC did not act in good faith and continue to lie about the negotiations. They are exposing themselves. So yeah, I ate the boot right after that tweet. But here's the thing, okay? I had a New York Times interview that was being conducted at the time when they were like, yeah, you got to clear the space, which I thought was pretty crazy. It was like 25 minutes after that tweet. But I still had a New York Times interview that was coming, Ken Benzinger, and you know, we still did the New York Times interview, and then they made me clear out my desk. Now I know, because obviously there's like a ton of people involved in these decisions and like, you know, playing roles in this. But now I know that like there was, I had heard that there was like already a little bit of a difference in opinion with the Kamala Harris campaign, who I believe wanted me there, versus the DNC, which did not think it was a great idea. Okay, there was a little bit of friction, a little bit of tension. And then obviously, like after that, the boss call was the reason that I got exited in a polite manner. It was not like, fuck you, you're out of here, get the fuck out of here, you're done. It was more so like, hey, you can't be in here anymore. There's a really important person coming in here and we have to clear out the space. Except we're not really clearing out the space. We're only getting you out of this space, right? And when I asked, like, is there another place that I can go to? I have these interviews lined up. I have the Ilhan Omar interview. I have the AOC interview. I have the Sean Fain interview. Like, I set all this stuff up. with the full knowledge that you guys gave me, that like with the confidence that you gave me that I have